though my brother and I are 12 years apart in age, we still argue like we're very close in age. So whenever we ask our grandma who's her favorite grandchild, she always says she doesn't have one. But seeing as my brother's not here right now, let me just say, I'm the favorite. But even though we argue, my grandma wants us to know, when are we going to get along? When will we have peace? Now something similar to this is happening on the global stage, but not on a joking level, on a more serious level. As the war in Ukraine is going on for more years now, people are asking today's question: will the new year bring new hopes for peace between Russia and Ukraine? And unfortunately, the truth is no, because there has not been significant grounds made towards peace. This is seen in three key reasons. The first is that Russia is continuing to attack Ukraine. The second is that there is resistance for peace on Russia's end, but hopefully on the third point, there have been more grounds made towards a potential treaty between Russia and Ukraine. But on to the first point of continued attacks from Russia. Al Jazeera recently reported that Russia has carried out 5 missile attacks against the second largest city in Ukraine. Now these aren't any military targets or civilian targets. This is attacks against key infrastructure in Ukraine, such as facilities that are meant to house water and heating for their people. But not only that, these missile attacks have also been against places that have strong roots in the U.S. economy that can falter in the U.S. All of this is showing that Russia is not backing down in Ukraine, and they're not going to stop until they reach their goals. So seeing as they are escalating attacks in Ukraine, it is showing us how Russia is not willing to have peace in Ukraine yet because of this. Showing us how, with the continued attacks, it shows us that it's not likely that there's going to be peace anytime soon. But that's just not it. Going on to the second point of Russia resisting peace. The New York Times recently reported that Zelensky has proposed many guarantees for Ukraine should peace treaties come about. Guarantees that prevent further Russian aggression in Ukraine. But Moscow has called this a mockery against Russia, and saying that Russia is remaining firm on key points such as Ukrainian forces withdrawing from occupied territory and NATO membership being denied for Ukraine. All this is showing that Russia does not want compromise on any occupied regions that are up for grabs should there be any potential peace treaty. Not only that, it's showing how Russia wants to have the advantage in the negotiations, to have Ukraine lose any advantage that they might have. They want to shrink Ukrainian territory to bring them more towards Russia, showing us how because of this stubbornness and resistance from Russia, peace is not likely in any recent days, weeks, months, or even by the end of the year. But even though we have talked about why peace is not likely, peace is still an option on the table, which is leading us to the third point of how there have been some ground made recently between Russia, Ukraine, and the United States for potential peace. The Santa Maria Times has reported that neither side is going to get whatever they want in a peace treaty. They're not going to get 100% of one side or the other, so compromises are going to have to be made. Zelensky said when he was talking about U.S.-mediated peace talks that things are looking solid. The U.S. leading these talks between both countries are going to have certain guarantees for Ukraine for peace, and others are not going to be as certain for Russia. All of this showing that Ukraine is more open when it comes to peace talks between them and Russia, but Russia is still remaining stubborn because of previous reasons, such as wanting to have control of all occupied territory and to prevent Ukraine from further joining NATO, thus making the borders of NATO come closer to Russia. In conclusion, we have seen that there is no likely end to the war by the end of the year. We saw this with how Russia is continuing their attacks in Ukraine. We saw this with how they are resisting towards peace, but we also saw some hope towards the end of the year because of grounds being made for peace, showing us how even if it's not likely by the end of the year, we can expect peace to happen at some point.